Across the country yesterday, people protested outside of Tesla dealerships. They were protesting the electric car company's billionaire owner Elon Musk's involvement in the Trump administration and his role leading the president's Department of Government Efficiency, the group that has been spearheading massive federal cuts. The protests were not just in the United States. Americans abroad protested Musk's involvement in the government, like these demonstrators in the Spanish capital of Madrid. And there were 6 protests in Metro Atlanta yesterday. We stopped by one of them, this one outside of a Tesla dealership in Alpharetta, where people held up signs for a Tesla takedown and to boycott Tesla, encouraging people driving by to honk if they agree.
There's no thought to preserving institutional knowledge. It's reckless. They're cutting services that are vital to the American people. Me in particular, I'm very, very concerned about what's happening with Social Security.
President Donald Trump says he is not touching Social Security benefits, but he is cutting about 12% of the agency's workforce and changing policies like requiring in-person identity checks.